It's not just storytelling, it's community building. PBS Hawaii, home is here.
Local broadcasts of Insights on PBS Hawaii are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo, and by Carl Smith Ball, providing legal services throughout Hawaii and the Pacific since 1857, making a positive difference in the communities where we live and work. Our 2024 election coverage continues as we talk to hopefuls from 2 local races. We'll hear from 2 of the candidates running for Honolulu City Council District 5, which includes the neighborhoods from Pālolo Valley and St. Louis Heights to McCully and parts of Kakaʻako. Then we'll hear from candidates in the Democratic primary for State House District 14, which covers most of West Maui. Join the discussion next on Insights.
Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Yanji Denise. We start off our show tonight with 2 of the candidates for Honolulu City Council District 5. Councilmember Calvin Say is retiring at the end of his term, so that leaves his seat open for a new person to represent the densely populated district that includes Pālolo Valley, St. Louis Heights, Manoa, Mo'ili'ili, McCully, Ala Moana, Makiki, and portions of Kakaʻako. We look forward to your participation in tonight's show. You can email or call in your questions, and you'll find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org and on the PBS Hawaii YouTube page. Now to our guest. William Muneno grew up in Pearl City and Hawaii Kai and currently resides in Manoa. He's worked in retail at Long's Drugs, was a sales manager at Coca-Cola, and has been a small business owner for the last 9 years. He and his wife Cheryl have 3 children and a grandson. Brendan Schultz grew up on Oahu and throughout the United States as the child of a U.S. Navy captain. He spent most of his professional career working in humanitarian aid. He has led human rights education programs in Macedonia, done research in the Kalahari Desert, taught English in Palestine, and led food distribution programs in Los Angeles. The third candidate for Honolulu City Council District 5, Scott Nishimoto, declined our invitation to participate in tonight's program. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. You are both political newcomers. William, I want to start with you. What compelled you to jump into this race? Oh, excuse me. William.
Over the years, I would complain about government and such. And my only participation up to that point had been voting, obviously. And I just decided, you know, if I'm going to keep complaining about things and not being happy with how things are done, that I should at least make an attempt to get into the system and see if I can make some sort of positive change.
Okay, and Brendan, now we'll go to you. What compelled you to throw your hat in the ring?
Absolutely. Being born and raised here on the island of Oahu, Hawaii has always been a special place for me. As you mentioned, I work in international development and humanitarian aid. Because of that, I've spent significant parts of my life outside of Hawaii working in communities that face a lot of challenges. And every time I return to Honolulu, I've noticed that the challenges that we face here seem to be getting bigger and bigger, whether that be our homeless population or pedestrian fatalities. I thought there's no better time like now to toss my hat into the ring and help solve the challenges facing our community.
Yeah, and of those challenges, what do you think is the biggest one facing this district in particular?
Absolutely, particularly our high cost of living, which everyone on the island of Oahu feels, especially in regards to affordable housing. We have an immense housing shortage on the island of Oahu, and that's not the result of some sort of natural disaster or something of the sort. It's a result of poor housing policies that politicians have implemented in our city for the past few decades. Likewise, we can solve that challenge by adopting progressive policies, by expanding mixed-use neighborhoods throughout the urban core, and allowing developers greater tax credits to build affordable rentals and affordable properties for working families to own.
Do you agree that affordable housing is the biggest issue? What do you think is the biggest issue facing the district?
It's definitely up at the top. I did a little bit of looking around, and there are a couple of studies that already have been done, city council as well as state, with plans to address this. They're pretty comprehensive, actually, and they cover some of the points that Brendan has mentioned. So I think a lot has to do with looking through those plans again, making sure that the pieces that work we continue using, the pieces that don't work we shove them off to the side and maybe fill with something else. But a lot of good groundwork, I think, has been done, and it's more about follow-up now and follow-through.
What do you think, given that you don't have a political background, what of your particular life and work experience do you bring to this job?
Good question. I think I have good analytical skills. Being able to dissect information to come up with potential solutions. I think I also am able to source the proper people with the knowledge to come together and come to some sort of consensus on potential solutions to problems.
Okay, what do you think of your life experience? What do you bring to this job that's unique?
Absolutely. I currently have the privilege of leading United by Love, which is an international nonprofit operating across 4 countries in southeastern Europe. The reason why I've been able to assume that leadership position is not because of my own expertise per se, but because I'm a collaborator and I bring people together from multiple cultures in order to solve challenges. I'm going to take that same philosophy and bring it to Honolulu Valley to solve the challenges that we face.
Okay, Eric in Pālolo has a question. I'll stay with you, Brendan. If elected to this office, explain how you would remain an independent voice for the community and not align yourselves with a power structure just to get elected again.
Absolutely. Well, you can look at the way that I have currently operated my campaign. I'm not participating in the pay-to-play politics that has corrupted our city hall. Particularly, you'll see me on shows with you tonight, you'll see me at neighborhood boards. You won't see me having $4,000 a person fundraisers at private clubs like Representative Nishimoto, unfortunately, who did not show this evening. So I'm not going to participate in that now or when I'm in office. I'm also the only candidate in this race who has pledged to cap my salary on City Council at the average family income for Oahu. As you may know, the Honolulu City Council voted themselves a 64% pay raise this past year. I don't know if you've ever gotten a 64% raise, but I certainly haven't. And when I came back, I was abroad when they voted themselves that raise. I thought, well, they might be doing a phenomenal job, but the same problems that we had the year before had only gotten worse. So I'm not going to accept that fully. I think it's outrageously selfish and ridiculous that they voted themselves in. And in order to remain connected to my constituents, I won't be participating in those corrupt activities.
William, I want to ask you this question from Mina. She says, is the city handling the homeless situation correctly? If so, how? And if not, what would you do differently?
Wow. I'm sure the city is doing their best up to this point, given the resources they have and whatnot. They also have reports that point in time studies that come out annually that dissect the causes, how many, and so on, how many are housed, how many aren't housed, and so on and so forth. There are some spots within the report, and I'm not privy to all the details, so they may have it, that doesn't go deep enough, in my opinion, from what I saw, to be able to come up with logical, credible solutions to some of the problem that we're facing today.
What are your thoughts on how to address homelessness in the district and beyond?
Absolutely. Homelessness is a symptom of many of the greater problems that we have on our island. So we need to look at what those problems are. And one of the fundamental problems is our property tax structure on Oahu, which favors off-island investors at the expense of local working families. So I want to increase property taxes on investors and add an empty home surcharge. At the same time, we're going to reduce property taxes on local working families who own and live in their homes and provide investors who want to rent below market rate an option to have lower property taxes should they choose to do so. That's going to increase the available housing inventory for local families and really attack one of the root causes of the homelessness epidemic.
Rebecca's asking, what's your assessment of the city's rail project? We could probably do a whole show, 2 shows. We've done many shows on this one, but briefly, what are your thoughts on rail?
Absolutely. We could talk for hours on end about rail. Unfortunately, the rail project early on was mismanaged significantly. We've seen a lot of improvements recently, though, especially under the new CEO of the rail project. I support getting rail completed to Ala Moana, as voters voted for originally, and from there we can see what else needs to change with the rail project, if it eventually should be expanded to Waikiki and UH to reduce traffic congestion on our roads and provide affordable transportation for lower income individuals.
So you would be open to putting rail all the way to the University of Hawaii Manoa campus?
I would make that decision based on the cost estimates at the time. So if you look at a map of rail across the southern shore of Oahu, you'll see that's about 20 miles from East Kapolei to Ala Moana, which we will complete, and then extending it to Waikiki would add about another mile, extending it to UH about another mile. So there's a question, if we've gone 20 miles so far, should we consider extending it that extra mile or two to reach much more of the urban core of Honolulu? That being said, I will only vote in support of that if we can do it at a reasonable cost.
Okay, what is your assessment of the rail project?
We're kind of at where we're at. I know when we started out, projections were closer to the $6 billion range, and we're already at more than twice that. It's like, where do you decide to stop the bleeding? I think we're at a point where we need to complete it at least through Ala Moana.
Okay.
Through there, and pretty much the same thought process thereafter. We'll look at it and see if it makes sense to stretch it another mile in either direction.
But you're open to doing that at some
I'm
point?
open to doing it, pending.
Okay. Michael is asking, how can you help the police department with all the vacancies it is going through? Statistics show crime overall is down, but high-profile crimes scare me. To Michael's point, we're about 400 officers short. Chief Logan
Yes.
has said that this is a priority, but between all the retirements and the difficulty he's had retaining officers and recruiting new ones, he doesn't seem to be gaining any ground. What are your thoughts about the shortage that we're facing?
You know, with all those vacancies that we're facing, there's a lot of money that's not being used. So I would say use that money to fund solutions to the problem. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. This is a problem that's probably going to take a minimum of a couple of years to get caught up when you're talking 400 officers. I'm not sure how many go through the academy at one time, but I believe it's in the realm of 40 at a time. So being able to ramp up the number of classes we have can help. Outside recruiting from other states can possibly help. And then also maybe investing in different ways of policing that may not actually involving a body, whether it's cameras or things like that. But the money is there. Some of the money is there. When you're not paying 400 people.
Brendan, what are your thoughts on that? And adding to that, Donald is saying, how would you help improve public safety in Honolulu? So what do we do about all the vacancies, and how do we improve public safety?
Absolutely. So the vacancies not only stretch in the police department, we're also talking about departments like DPP, the Department of Planning and Permitting, as well as ocean safety. Pretty much all of the departments in city government have vacancies at this point in time. And you can't run a city with a huge vacancy rate, just like you can't run a business without employees. We need to look at how much we're paying our municipal employees and make sure that they're being paid a living wage. Every person who's a public servant in our city government should be getting a living wage, and we need to make sure especially entry-level employees, new police recruits, new lifeguards are getting paid that entry wage to not only fill those positions, but also attract top talent to those positions. As far as improving public safety, we need to get people off of the streets, which means not only addressing the affordable housing crisis, but also expanding the number of beds and diversity of beds in our housing shelters to make sure that every person who's unhoused on Oahu has a bed available.
Okay, on that public safety point, is there something that we can do in the interim as we recruit these new officers? Donald asking, how would you help to improve public safety in our city?
Part of that is doing what Brendan said, is getting people off the streets, making our streets safer for everybody. How is that done? I think we talked about the homeless a little bit already. There are a lot that want to be out on the streets. They don't want help. They don't want to live in a structured society. And we need to find solutions primarily for those, because the ones that don't want to be out there, they're the ones that are easy to help or easier to help. The ones that don't want to live in a structured society, we have to find different solutions for them.
And if I may, Yunji, I just want to say that crime is a symptom of much larger problems that we have, of economic and social inequities that we have here in Hawaii. We're only going to tackle crime if we can ensure that people have decent work, meaningful civic participation, and affordable housing. I understand that it's very frustrating for residents to feel uncomfortable to walk around at night in our urban core. It's frustrating for me as a person who goes on runs at night to see that and to feel that as I'm going for my exercising. That being said, we need to zoom out a little bit from the symptom of the problem to truly attack the underlying issue.
Okay. I want to ask you about the state legislature. They passed a law that allows additional units to be built on properties, expanding, to the idea being to expand affordable housing, or at least to have more units available. Your district, or this district in particular, is dense already. What are your thoughts about the legislature allowing additional density this last session?
You know, I'm not privy to all the rules and regulations about what was passed. I do know, I believe it's up to 2 additional dwellings you can build on your property. I also know that because we're as dense as we are, if everybody were to do that, you're going to run into problems with parking on the streets. You'll run into problems with the infrastructure not being able to handle capacity, things like that. So I would say that I need to look at more of the details behind it before I can make any sort of logical decision whether I support or not. I do support things that will get people off the streets and will keep more of our children home. And this could be one of the answers.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on what the legislature did, adding the ability to build more dwellings on the existing units already?
Absolutely. So the urban core of Honolulu, which this district represents much of, is only going to get more and more dense as our city expands. It's more of a question, instead of trying to prevent that, in how do we handle that in the best way possible? Well, the city is already very dense within the urban core. You look at neighborhoods like McCully and Mo'iliili, Kakaʻako, Ala Moana. The urban core is not very walkable or bikeable. So when we talk about increasing density, one of the biggest complaints that I hear on the campaign trail is traffic. How are we going to manage more people in this already tight neighborhood? How are we going to deal with parking in this neighborhood? Well, one of the ways that we can manage that is by making it more walkable. So people have cars as an option, but not a requirement. We can increase the number of bike lanes to make sure that people can safely bike throughout our city. That's going to get more cars off of the street. All of these problems that we face have solutions, but it's about forward thinking. Unfortunately, if we look to the past, Honolulu City Council has been very reactive. But with forward thinking, being prudent, we can ensure that the problems that come with greater density and all of the issues that we face are accounted for appropriately.
Bill, I know you're a small business owner. What do you think the City Council could do to make small business, support small business owners, especially at a time when there are hiring shortages, we have, high labor costs, not enough workers, high rents, all of the things that business owners face? Is there something the City Council could do to help business owners like yourself?
Regulations, rules and regulations that involve fees, taxes, insurance, so on and so forth. Finding ways to reduce those expenses would be very helpful to the small business. As an example, insurance for me has gone up about 80% last year to this year. And that's with 0 incidences over 8 years of running my business. I've had 0 claims over 8 years, but my insurance has gone up, and that was the best deal I could get at that time. So that's just an example of finding ways to help us reduce our expense. And then when minimum wage increase comes along, we're not as against it as we were this last time, because also our electrical rates went up, and I'm probably paying about 50%, 40 to 50% more than I did just a couple years ago. So these are all things that are burdening all the small business owners, and then mandated minimum wage increases. It's tough. It's tough. We got to raise our prices to survive.
How do we better support small businesses, and what can the City Council do specifically to help businesses?
Absolutely. So small business creation as well as home ownership has served as the most efficient pathway for people to enter the middle class in the history of our country and the history of Hawaii. And so I very much support streamlining regulation processes at the county level so that locals can participate in the local economy rather than just being employees for off-island mega corporations that tap into our tourist market, so that locals can actually start their own small businesses to tap into this market. We need to address the staffing shortages across all departments in order to do that, and we need to make more streamlined processes. There's a lot of important regulations that we do have at the county level regarding health and safety, but if we are going to have those regulations, at least to business owners and people who want to start small businesses, entrepreneurs, we can provide a very clear pathway as to how they can accomplish meeting those requirements.
The City Council works in tandem with the Mayor's office. I'm just interested to hear from both of you your thoughts on the current administration and how you would work with Mayor Blangiardi and his team.
Absolutely. I very much like Mayor Blangiardi. He's done a great job at sort of righting the ship and being very pragmatic in solving the problems that our city faces. Role as far as the City Council is to make sure that the Mayor's office also has the resources in order to accomplish what he wants to through his administration. So mostly working as far as like the resource side, what more do we need to bring into the city and what reforms can we make from sort of a legislative standpoint at the city level, as far as how to change regulations and change ordinances to accomplish what we need to accomplish.
What are your thoughts on the current administration and how you'd work with the mayor?
I like the mayor. I like the job he's done up to now. Is everything perfect? By no means. Everything's perfect. It's a tough job to manage such a large organization. And to Brendan's point, that's where we come in to help him find ways to make things better across the board.
You know, you mentioned your HECO rates, and Robert from Wahiawa says, how would you deal with the electric companies going in and out and cutting off power like the recent downtown outages?
How would I deal with them? I would call them up and give them a piece of my mind. Is that going to solve the problem? Probably not. I'd like to think that what they're doing is a necessary evil so that in general everybody can stay open as much as possible. That line that burned in downtown, I think that some sort of compensation obviously needs to be put in place for the business owners that it affected. Other than that, you know, that's about what I would do.
Okay. What is your answer to Robert and Wahiawa? How would you deal with the electric companies going in and out and cutting off power?
Absolutely. We talked not only about partnerships with the mayor office, but this office or the city council also requires partnerships with the state legislature, who has much more authority over HECO than we would as council members. And so working with our state legislatures to make sure we craft solutions for our local challenges that fit the local community. You mentioned before the local or the recent law passed by the state legislature mandating ADUs be placed on properties. Was that necessarily the most appropriate in the urban core of Honolulu? I would say no. Unfortunately, it didn't seem as if there was adequate communication between the city council and between the state legislature on the needs of the local community. And as far as building affordable housing, there could have been more well-crafted solutions at the state level to fit the needs of our community here in District 5. So making sure I keep open lines of communication between myself and everyone in the state legislature to solve challenges at the local level.
Bernard and Kalihi, you know, you talked about affordable housing a number of times. He says, how can the homeless transition to renting or even buying a home in this current cost of living?
Absolutely. The crisis that we now have for affordable housing was not created overnight, and unfortunately, it will not be solved overnight. This is something that's going to take years, if not decades, to right. To ensure that right now in Hawaii, 50% of our kids who have college degrees move to the mainland in search of opportunities. To right the wrongs, whether it be increasing homeless counts or making sure that our kids can grow up here, that they see a future here in Hawaii, that's not something that anyone would be able to solve overnight. It's something that progressive policies will take years, if not decades, to solve. But through various reforms, we can start to correct the errors of the past. So building more housing is unfortunately, or not unfortunately, it's the most simple solution to addressing this crisis. There's no way out of the current epidemic of homelessness and unaffordable housing aside from building more housing. And we can do that appropriately in the urban core of Honolulu in neighborhoods like Kakaʻako, Ala Moana, Mo'ili, Makiki, and McCully.
Okay, same question for you from Bernard. How can the homeless transition to renting or buying a home given the current cost of living? Difficult.
We have, again, there is a plan in place that there are ways to get a portion of them into some sort of housing. To Brendan's point, to get all of them off the streets in a short period of time is unrealistic. We have a lot of things that we have to change and address in order to make that happen. It's going to take time, and like I said, there are a couple plans in place that we can use as a base to start administering change to affect that.
We're almost out of time. I want to get to a final thought from each of you, but first I have one quick question from Randall. There's a move to allow small types of fireworks like sparklers. This was actually Councilmember Say's idea. The mayor has said he'd veto it. Do you think this is a good idea?
It's going to happen anyway. Obviously, we've seen it. I think it wouldn't be inappropriate to allow some sort of fireworks legally to be used in our city and county. Taxed appropriately, produced appropriately, and funds from the taxes go directly primarily to fire department, police department, and other services.
What are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. Last year I was celebrating New Year's at one of my friends' houses up at Punch Bowl, and I remember looking out to Eva and seeing fireworks galore, the most fireworks I've ever seen in my entire life. So clearly what we're doing now isn't working as far as regulations are concerned. Would I support more well-regulated use of fireworks in order to clamp down on many of the issues that we've had with firework use in the past? Yes, because outright prohibition doesn't seem to be working for anyone involved.
Okay, we're just about out of time, so I want to give each of you the opportunity for a final thought. William, we'll start with you.
My thought is that everybody get out there and vote. Ideally, vote for somebody new and different. And I'm not just saying about me and Brendan here, just somebody new and different to shake things up in government.
Okay, and you, sir, a final thought tonight.
Absolutely. So I'm not only the only candidate in this race who's pledged not to accept the full city council salary increase. I'm also the only candidate who has all of the policies that I support listed out on my website. Of course, tonight in this conversation, I proposed quite a few changes to how we would run city government, and I understand how that can make some people a bit apprehensive. That being said, I invite all of the viewers to please go to brendanschultz.com, view what I have to offer. My phone number and my email address are also up on there, so feel free to give me a call. I'd be happy to discuss the changes that I want to incorporate here in Honolulu.
Okay, thank you both for being here tonight. We do want to thank our guests, the candidates for Honolulu City Council District 5, William Muneno and Brendan Schultz. As we get ready for our next segment with the Democratic candidates for House District 14, here's a story from the student journalist at Lahaina Intermediate about what their school is doing to reduce waste on campus.
I think they're really good. I think it really it helps the environment a lot, and it's probably less money for the school.
In the late 80s, Hawaii Public Schools did away with washing trays and utensils and switched to one-time use products. Since then, schools have been throwing away the trays, utensils, and food waste in the trash, which ended up in the landfill. In November 2022, Lahaina Intermediate became the first public school in Hawaii to pilot a zero-waste program in the cafeteria. They installed a dishwasher and made the switch back to reusable plastic trays and metal utensils. Think about it. We have over 600 kids in our school. That means 600 forks and 600 trays are being sent to the landfill every single day. Multiply that by the 5 days of the week and you get 3,250, which is approximately 13,000 forks and 13,000 trays per month. And this is only for lunch. If we include breakfast and second meals, that number gets even higher. We're just one school out of the 295 schools in Hawaii. That is a lot of plastic waste.
Yes, I believe it's really a good change that we went from the disposables to the plastic. I think it's great for the environment. Well, it's more work for us. It takes almost 2 to 4 people to run the dishwashing machine because of all the drying and the cleaning. Because it's a pilot program, we were willing to start it and see how it goes. I actually like it. It does take work, but I think it's a good way of moving forward. Lahaina Intermediate is the first one in state that's limiting our landfills, so I think it's a good program.
This new program will definitely take some getting used to. Prior to the switch, Lahaina Intermediate, like many other schools, has had a shortage of substitutes. This has led to having multiple classes in the caf during the school day. With our new lunch system, students need to eat in the cafeteria to ensure that trays and utensils get returned and washed in time for the second lunch period.
Teaching simultaneously while having lunch is more difficult recently because with the new lunch trays, they're making everybody eat inside the caf. Before, when people could eat outside, that was nice because it was just the classes in there. Now with everybody eating lunch, it's just really loud and the people eating are talking, so the kids that are supposed to be learning, it's not a good learning environment for them.
Although it is a change for the students, many feel that the benefits outweigh the inconveniences.
Instead of throwing away everything, and then with the plastic trays, you can always reuse them and wash them.
I believe it's very nice because the trays before were very whimsy and they broke easily, and also the forks, the plastic forks, also broke, so I like the new metal forks better. And I believe it's way better for the environment and also way cheaper for the school, so I believe it's all around way better than the other trays.
This is Shalef Sabag from the Lahaina Intermediate School for Hiki No on PBS Hawaii.
Welcome back to Insights on PBS Hawaii. We now turn our focus to West Maui and the Democratic candidates looking to represent House District 14 in the general election this coming November. State House District 14 includes Maui, Kahakuloa, Waihee, Lahaina, and Honokahua. Let's meet our guests now. Representative Elle Cochran currently represents District 14. She previously served on the Maui County Council from 2011 to 2018. Born in Wailuku, she has lived in Lahaina her entire life. She is the founder of the Save Honolulu Coalition and was a member of the National Ocean Council. And Kanamu Balinbin is the owner and chef at Nalu Grinds. He was born and raised in West Maui. He graduated from Lahaina Luna High School and served in the U.S. Army Reserve from 1986 to 1992. Thank you both for being here. Representative Cochran, I want to start with you. Sure. Do you feel the legislature did enough in this last session to support your community given the vast challenges that it is facing?
I'm hoping. I'm going to say that, right? You know, there was, the governor had vetoed some things, and I guess the promise to Lahaina and our community after the fires is the monies are coming, and, you know, the flexibility of the use will still benefit us. So we haven't lost per se in the dollar amount that he vetoed out in SB 3068. So, you know, that's yet to be seen. And so, yes, I'm praying and hoping that the promises do get fulfilled and that the funds come back to us.
Yeah. Mr. Balinbin, how do you feel how the legislature did this session when it comes to your community?
You know, with the state of Lahaina and our tragic wildfire, I would sense that they would have a difficult time with this session and trying to get the proper funds to the right people. I believe Elle did the best that she could. I still believe that with what we've been hearing, that we need more support from other Maui state and Senate representatives to help us in that fight. So, I give props to Elle for what she did for this last session. Tough times. Given
how positive you are, giving her props and whatnot, what compelled you to jump into this race?
You know, I've always been a problem solver. Been able to gather people together, creative minds to solve problems and, outside of the box. And, it's shown like as a community, since the fires, that we have a lot of smart people in our community, a lot of caring individuals. It's always been like that. We're a close-knit town. And I know Elle since I was a small kid. I know her family. So it showed that in this tragedy we've all come together, in a sense, to look for that common goal. Right now, some of the needs are simple as having a hot meal, where some other people are in the process of building and getting through that permitting process that's troubling a lot of people right now.
Mm-hmm. Representative, what makes you want to stay on in this role?
I have a lot more work to do, and I feel like with my experience from the county council, the relationships I've built within the county and currently within the state, there's a lot more to do, and I feel like I've learned a whole lot, gathered way more experience, and have great strategies this coming session to accomplish more than I have and just carry through things. So I have a different approach that I'm going to attempt this session, which I feel will make a big difference.
I'm interested because you have worked at the council level, at the county level. When we think about rebuilding Lahaina, first things first, we need infrastructure. How do you navigate whose responsibility first and foremost that is, the county or the state? How do you make sure those two entities are working together successfully? And what are your major concerns about getting that infrastructure in place?
So, and thank you for that. And infrastructure is near and dear. I chaired the infrastructure committee for 8 years as a county council member. So I have intimate knowledge about it and have been in touch again with those relationships with the county and asking what's the status on things are. So things are moving along. I'm very happy about that. And the funding obviously will come from both sides, state level, county level, and that collaboration has to happen. And also private right? Private donors and private people want to assist, whether it's, extension of the Lahaina bypass, which is critical, our R1 water system. It's a wasted resource. I've said it before I even got on the council. We need to utilize that. And I just had discussions with 2 private water purveyors, and to offset the in-stream flows and the wells, we need to utilize this wasted resource. They're open to giving easements, helping with infrastructure. So again, it's a collaboration between public-private partnerships.
What are your concerns about infrastructure and how the community moves forward? Because before we do anything, before anything can happen there, those are you need those first.
Yeah, infrastructure, it's always been a big topic always during campaign time, and it kind of goes back, but everything depends on infrastructure. And with the private and with the private and the public and the state projects, we found that working together with each other since the fire, we've been able to work with Angus McKelvey on certain issues with our state senator. We've been able to, we have a group of people at our donation hubs where we help people every day. So we hear the problems they face every day. So we relay that to our state officials, to our county officials. To our private, we have some private funding. We also have a project in the works that has everything in set, but we're still waiting for word from the county and the state on infrastructure available. So we got someone who bought a private piece of land who wants to help the people of Lahaina. They have the engineers, they have the architects all ready to set. We're still waiting for word from the county and the state on what needs to be done for infrastructure. So,
Kehau in Kahului has a question, and I'd love for both of you to answer, but I'll start with you. Should Lahaina be rebuilt as it was? Is that even possible with new shoreline rules, or should there be a new vision for the future? This is a conversation, of course, we could do many, many shows on this, but given how close, the water was right up to the businesses and some of the houses there, should that continue that way? There have been talks about swapping some of that land and moving the moving the setback. What are your thoughts?
The general consensus for most people in Lahaina is they want to build back exactly as it was. As of the meetings that we've gone to so far, some of that is not feasible because of the water level rise and this erosion. Looks like things going to have to move back. But we're in that early process of planning and getting everybody's input. That's the one thing that I like. We're having the community's input. That's what we've shown as a community, that we stand together. And it's sad on one point that all the buildings are gone, but it's exciting for some of us of the older generation to see modern technologies but building the same design. That's kind of the works that people want to see. Have the same type of old school Front Street aura and mystique, but with modern materials. So looking forward to that process and when it comes up.
Okay, what do you say to Kehau? Should Lahaina be rebuilt as it was?
I mean, I don't think, inch by inch exactly the same. I think where Kanamu was alluding to, in the sense that when we rebuild, I want to be a role model for the rest of this world on how to rebuild smartly, right? How to incorporate renewable energies, how to be self-sufficient and have redundancy for our utilities, for our water, we have to have backup. So things, when hazards occur, we have that backup to keep our communications up and going, right? Our water lines still flowing for fire protection, what have you. But right now, the county, we need to get the answer from the county about setbacks. We need to get the county to get on board and telling us what the SMA rules are. That's holding everything back right now, is the permitting process. I know they hired that third-party company for relief. They're doing the best they can. But at the end of the day, the bottom line, those two biggest glaring questions are still standing a year later, coming up August 8th, for setbacks and the SMA rules, because all of Lahaina is in this zone. And we have historic districts. So there's, the buildings, the facade of the cultural parts I would love to see. I would love to see our mom and pops back. You know, Kanamu's family had Coconut Grove. My mom had Moki's Inn. We had, you know, family bakeries, and just, I mean, that's what I want to see come back. And knowing the owners of the lands directly on the water, they're wondering too, what's going to happen with their properties? Can they rebuild? Do they want to rebuild? Is the county or someone going to, you know, purchase their lands? I mean, setbacks, we have to think about that. That, you know, Lahaina Jodo Mission is right in the setbacks. They're asking me, do we rebuild, Elle? Can we? And that temple is beautiful. I would love to have it back on the ocean like it was. But again, we need answers from the county now. We needed it.
Richard asks, is the legislature transparent enough? Do residents really know what lawmakers are doing? How would you improve the system?
No. So I think everyone I work with at the state ledge knows that I don't really care for the process because there's no sunshine law. I worked under sunshine for 8 years as a county council member, so every decision that you make is out in the open. It's on video, it's, you know, everything is transparent, and everyone can see who made what, who said what, but at the state level, it's not so, and that bothers me. And I've said that from day one when I stepped foot into the Capitol. And so it needs to be more open and transparent, and I really feel like it leaves the voice of the people out, because in these committees, pretty much the decision has been made. You know, you can testify, send in testimony, show up for testimony. If you even realize there's a meeting coming up, because you know they have 48-hour notice versus sunshine gives you 6 days. At least people can prepare and learn about the issues and prepare testimony and get involved. So the process at the state is way too fast. We only work 60 working days to vet through thousands, hundreds of bills. And to me, the process in itself leaves out the voice of the people and you know the timing for people to actually participate and be involved.
What do you say to Richard? Do you agree with Representative Cochran? Is the legislature perhaps not transparent enough, or do you think it is?
I've heard on both sides of the story. You know, but right now, what Lahaina, our district needs transparency. We need to know where the money's going, who's helping us, who's not, whose voices, you know, who's listening to the voices of our district. If I'm elected, I'm surely would let my constituents know what's going on every moment at every time with bills that are concerning our district or that will effectively affect our district. You know, in Lahaina, we feel that. A lot of us feel that, you know, we're bred. All these years, we made so much money for this state, but yet we're lacking so much necessities on our side of our island. Local people, you know, a lot of us have to go shop to Costco on the other side because our stores on our side are way too expensive. You know, things of just that simple nature. We need more help in just the everyday things. Seems like, you know, with the amount of money we bring to our state. Our community of Lahaina, our district, I feel that we should get a lot more funding for our schools, for our roads, for our infrastructure.
Let me ask you this. This is from Paula. She says, Lahaina's economy, Ka'anapali as well, seems dependent on tourism. We have a chance to change that dependence to provide something other than a service industry future for the next generation. Where do each of you stand on this idea? We'll start with you.
Well, it's a catch-22 situation. You know, a lot of us work in the tourism industry. I was raised in the tourism industry. My parents worked in the tourism industry. A lot of my friends work in the tourism industry. However, I think that our tourism industry can go to a different side route, more ecotourism, more, you know, if we rebuild Lahaina, we'd like to see more cultural practices. I really like to get Moku'ula built back to how it was, back to the ponds back there, let the water flowing into our rivers, make Lahaina more of a cultural playground instead of a tourist trap. You know, it's not, you know, a tourist entity. So get the mom and pops back in, get the local people back cruising the streets and walking the streets and going to the outlets. That's, you know, like when we were growing up. I think that's one of the aspects that people are looking into.
Okay, what do you say to Paula about Lahaina's economy and Ka'anapali as well, too dependent on tourism? Do we have a chance to change that, and how can we do that?
Yeah, I always thought we had that moment during COVID when we shut everything down, stopped the flow of tourism. Then we just opened the floodgates and let it all back in again. But at that time, I thought that was our opportunity to start looking, to diversify the economy. We all say it, all of us that run for office, every time. And then what happens at the end of the day? We go back to our tourism industry, which serves a purpose. Don't get me wrong. I worked in it for 33 years myself. So, it pays the bills and all that. But unfortunately, that's all there is. From plantation, then everybody got work into the hotel industry. But right now, let's, we talk about agriculture. We talk about, renewable energies, hemp and, biodiesel, and let's feed, food security and all of that. And yeah, I would love to have the 33 free-flowing streams that West Maui once upon a time had. That reality with climate change and just the use of how our water system is now, that's a really tall order to make happen. But with that, I always had this dream, right? There was a poi factory right in Lahaina on Front Street. And, up on the mountainsides at Mauka, you have the free-flowing streams and the lo'is, and our visitors can go and plant huli, can harvest. Then you go down and our locals alike, right? Our youth, our kupuna, whoever. And then you get in the lepo, and then you can go pick your huli and you go down to the poi factory down in Lahaina, right? You get shuttled down there. You don't drive in, you get shuttled, maybe on horse and carriage, who knows? And you learn all about kalo, right? Haloa. I mean, it is so integral to our history of Hawaiian, and this is just the capital of the Hawaiian kingdom is Lahaina. So to me, that's a vision and a dream I had, actually driving to the Taro Fest one year. But that's kind of the idea, right? You have things up there. It reminds me of the Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, the lavender fields. You can go buy lavender down at the waterfront and eat, the foods that's grown up in the hillsides there. And it's just, to me, that's what I want to see.
I want to ask you this question from Angela on a totally different note. She says, council members have term limits, mayors have term limits, the governor's office has term limits. Should state lawmakers have term limits? Why or why
yes.
not? And why do you think so?
Yeah, I'm for term limits. I just think, get in there and make use of every second you're there, because it shouldn't be a given that you're going to come back. I never take it for granted. It is the voters who put me in this position and give me this job, and I'm very grateful and thankful. But it's like I don't take it for granted that I'll come back. So I make use of every second that I'm there, and I work as hard as I can for the time that I'm there. And so it boggles my mind that a lot of people talk like, oh, they're coming back already. It's like, well, how do you know that? And how I know what I see at 2 years that I've seen, if you follow the money, if you follow how much funds go into certain districts, when those people go back to their districts and they got perfect streets and schools that are totally buffed out and stuff, those respective districts, the constituents will never vote that person out. But I'll just say a certain part of our island got $41 million for schools. That same year, Lahaina got $875,000. That is not equitable, okay? But that district will never vote that person out because, hey, they're bringing home the bacon. But you know what? How fair is that to us, Lahaina? As Kanamu said, we have been the breadwinners for not just the county, but yes, for the state, like third revenue generator for the entire state. Now, so the faster we get Lahaina back, the more we can get money back into our economy. But yeah, I am for term limits.
What are your thoughts? Should lawmakers be subject to term limits?
I think they all should have term limits. Speaking to, that's how you breed corruption, I feel. The longer you're in there, the more people you know, and it just starts scratching everybody's back, and it's been shown. As our state and county government has been known to do a lot of bad things, and a lot of them is on a lot of the old timers. And so we need to, there's a lot of fresh voices out there. Right now we're urging the the young community, people who just graduated, who are going to college right now, to please get involved in the issues. We need to have more of our young local people voting in general. Everybody needs to vote. That's the one thing that we are lacking as a county, as a state. So I urge people to please go register to vote.
Oscar says, there's been talk of making Hawaii more self-sufficient in terms of the food we eat, but nothing seems to change. Where do we start and when?
Well, I think we're doing pretty good on Maui. With Mahi Pono, we have a lot of farmer initiatives. With our donation hub that we run in Kahana, we get massive amount of vegetables from a lot of these farmers that come in. The eggplant, the specialty Filipino vegetables. I think people should come and take a look at what we're doing on Maui. A lot of private farmers, and a lot of these private farmers who are just giving from their heart to people in need. That's how we are on Maui.
What do you say to Oscar, the idea that we need to be more food independent, self-sufficient, and how do we do that and when?
Yeah, and that's another thing, right? Food security, sustainability. Every time we run for office, everyone talks about that. But there has to be political will, obviously, and water and land. Two ingredients you have to have. And so obviously water is a challenge. And yeah, Mahi Pono got 22,000 acres agriculture lands. They've been doing a lot of lemons and limes and things. I know they're branching out to try many different other vegetables and what have you. The one thing that anybody, I think, who endeavors to think about, look into food sustainability and food security is to ask us, the community, the people that you're going to serve as what you want to eat. So when, 22,000 acres, there was never an outreach to ask the community, what do we want to eat? Yeah, we want to eat eggplant, bitter melon, potatoes. We don't want lemons and limes all day. That's great, but we can't live on it. And so how can we offset things that are shipped in? And the sad truth of the matter is there's a huge building being built here on this island that brings in all the produce that you buy at Costco. And because they can bring it in bulk, the cost is cheaper, right? As Kanamu mentioned, our shops in Lahaina, grocery stores, are high priced because the cost is high priced. The land value and the retail space and what have you, rent is through the roof right now. But again, it's about all of us, and growing our farmers. That's been a program and it works, but we just need, I think the political will at the end of the day to help with funding too.
We've only got a few minutes left, and I do want to get to a final thought from each of you. Just briefly, if you could answer George's question here. Did the legislature hit a home run in passing a law that allows the counties to regulate and even eliminate short-term rentals? This is of particular interest to Maui, of course. Or did they pass the buck on a sensitive issue?
That bill, the county could already have done that. Right? I was there when we created short-term rentals. I always, and everyone knows this, you can go back in time, I've always had an issue with them. I could swallow the B&Bs, bed and breakfasts, where the owner is there on property, so when there's issues, the owner can take care of it right then and there. When I started having issues with it, it was when, LLCs and corporations were buying up streets, houses, like 5 houses in a row, and turning them into vacation rentals. We put caps on different districts, and that cap far exceeded years ago. The zoning and enforcement never happened. And so the county has always had that opportunity to rein it in, to control it, and to enforce it, and that never happened. So this bill, to me, was sort of a formality to say, hey, yeah, look at what we're doing, we're gonna address it, when it already should have been, could have been, and needs to be.
Okay, what are your thoughts? Did the legislature hit a home run, or did they pass the buck on short-term rental restrictions?
For me, I just go by what our community needs, and what our community needs right now is short-term rentals to be turned into housing for our fire victims. So I'm all for the bill. That's what our people need right now. There's people who are still in hotels or other housing conditions that they don't know where they're going next. They're at a standstill. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay, well, we are just about out of time, but I want to give each of you an opportunity for a closing thought. We'll start with you.
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I'd like to thank Elle. Nice to see you again. For me, I just want to let the people know that there's a group of hardworking individuals at the Kahana S-Turns Donation Hub that's there to help people. We're there Monday through Friday, and Manu, my wife Rochelle, Kialva Iki, all those people are there to help you. We have resources. We can get you the resources that you need: food, medical, housing information. So please don't be afraid to come see us.
Okay, thank you. And in about the minute we have left, what's your final thought tonight?
So I've brought this A-team together, and my number one goal is to keep our Lahaina people in Lahaina, right? To get the people back to their properties and back in their homes, like permanent homes, not temporary, but permanent. And so I've got a consortium of people, planners, architects, Hawaiian Cement and companies like Daikin for AC, and just all these people, because I feel like the big manufacturers, when we buy in bulk, we can bring down the cost. So the goal of our team is to build expeditiously and economically. So housing first for sure, and I'm looking forward to getting our infrastructure up and going, like you said, because it takes infrastructure to get housing and obviously the permitting. So, but Lahaina Bypass, that's my number one. I got to put a plug out there to get the Lahaina Bypass North onto the State Transportation Improvement Plan. So please, community, turn out and support it. We need it badly, as you all know, for evacuation routes and for the health and safety and well-being of all of us in the community.
Okay, thank you so much. We, of course, thank our guests tonight, the Democratic candidates for House District 14, Representative Elle Cochran and Kanamu Balinbin. Next week on Insights, we'll talk with the hopefuls in the Democratic primary for State House District 23. That includes Manoa, Punahou University, and Mo'ili'ili. Please do join us then. I'm Yanji Denise for Insights on PBS Hawaii. Aloha.
Local broadcasts of Insights on PBS Hawaii are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo, and by Carl Smith Ball, providing legal services throughout Hawaii and the